And we're live.
We'll call our meeting to order. If you would all please rise, we'll pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council clerk is not here tonight, so I'll be doing the roll call. So I'll start to my left. Nancy? Here. Jeremy? Here. Kelly Campbell? Here. Bink? Here. Michael? Here. Okay. We have one council member absent, Kelly Cornett. We can entertain a motion to excuse her for tonight's meeting.
I so move.
We have a motion for that. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Let's do a roll call on that as well. Nancy?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Kelly Campbell? Yes. Bink?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Tonight we have a couple of presentations we'd like to have before we get into our general meeting. So without further ado, we will go ahead.
The first one I have is Officer Pendleton.
Matt, could you put that microphone straight up so that people can?
Officer Pendleton's been given the life-saving award for an incident on September 20th, 2023. On September 20th, 2023, Officer Chase Pendleton responded to a call for an adult male that had collapsed at the Georgetown Church of Christ. Upon arrival, Officer Pendleton immediately realized the male was not breathing and began to perform CPR. While performing CPR, he gave instructions to individuals on how to assist Officer Pendleton's ability to stay calm. Officer Pendleton's ability to stay calm and take control of the situation was crucial. Officer Pendleton's actions assisted in saving the citizen's life. The Georgetown Police Department is grateful for his efforts and what he brings to our community while serving the citizens of Georgetown. My next one I'm going to do in conjunction with Sheriff Ellis. It's going to be Officer Corey Honeyke. The Georgetown Police Department is going to give him an award, and Sheriff Ellis is also going to give him an award. We're giving him the Outstanding Excellence Award for an incident demonstrating exceptional courage and dedication to an active shooter situation on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. Ironically, both of these events happened the same day. So. Police officers go through constant training to successfully perform their duties. One of the training courses we consistently have is an active shooter response. During this active shooter response, we are trained to never hesitate to engage the shooter as quickly as possible. We do not get to wait for backup. We are trained to find a threat, stop it, even if it means the odds are against us. We fully understand the result could be us not returning home. On September 20th, 2023, Officer Corey Honeyke did just that. Officer Honeyke courageously responded to an active shooter without hesitation. He knew multiple people had been shot. The active shooter was still on scene waiting. Officer Honeyke did not knowing when backup would get there, arrived on scene and engaged the shooter, alone successfully taking the suspect into custody. Officer Honeyke displayed heroism, courage during the most challenging and perilous situation an officer will face. The Georgetown Police Department is extremely grateful that he has chosen to serve the community alongside our team.
So it's my distinct pleasure and honor to give you a letter of commendation and also a point of excellence. On September 20th, 2023, at approximately 6:29 p.m., the Brown County Communications Center dispatched Brown County Sheriff's deputies to 5612 Wallsburg East Road for a report of an active shooter at that location. The initial report stated that a suspect armed with a firearm had killed or wounded multiple victims at that location. Officer Hunnicky was the closest peace officer to that location and was requested by the Brown County Sheriff's Office to respond to the scene. Officer Hunnicky responded to the scene of the incident and was the first peace officer to arrive on scene. Upon arrival, Officer Hunnicky located the suspect involved in the shooting and successfully detained the suspect while holding the crime scene until deputies from the Brown County Sheriff's Office arrived. Officer Hunnicky remained at the scene and assisted Brown County Sheriff's Office with coordinating other first responders in passing on vital information to EMS personnel. Officer Hunnicky acted with the utmost professionalism as he was tasked with the first responding to a dangerous and high-stress incident involving the loss of life and wounded victims. He remained calm throughout the incident, initially detaining the suspect and then assisting in the preservation of life. Officer Hunnicky then assisted as the crime scene was secured and the investigation into the incident was initiated. The Brown County Sheriff's Office appreciated the assistance rendered by Officer Hunnicky and the Georgetown Police Department. His actions reflect great credit upon himself, the Georgetown Police Department, and members of the law enforcement profession. With the greatest respect, Sheriff Gordon Ellis. It's also my distinct pleasure to be able, in the finest traditions of the military and law enforcement, to give you a coin of excellence from the Brown County Sheriff's Office and to publicly thank you for what you did that night.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you did.
Congratulations again, all of you.
Mayor. It's Craig.
Okay,
Peter Craig.
okay, yeah. We have one more presentation to come forth yet.
Hi, my name is Tina Craig. And I'm sorry, just bear with me. On June 25th, 2023, our family went through one of the most difficult days that we have ever experienced. On that day, we lost our precious grandson, Waylon Craig. He was 3 years old. Chief Staggs and, I'm sorry, I always call you Corey, because I can't pronounce your name. Craig Hunky. Right. They went above and beyond their call of duty to help our family during this time. They showed concern, compassion, sympathy, while they were also being professional. Our family would like to thank Georgetown Police Officer for having such professional as well as compassionate officers. So, Matt and Corey, thank you guys for what you did. Mom, yeah, I know they got me to do this. Thank you, guys. Oh, yeah. I already did my heart.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We're now to our public comment section of our meeting tonight. If anyone would like to address council, they're more than welcome to come up to the desk here, and they have 5 minutes. So anyone wish to address council? Does anyone wish to address council?
Yes. I
Okay,
did.
you please do.
Last Friday night.
Would you please introduce yourself? Introduce your name.
Oh, I'm Jan Staubach, a resident here in Georgetown. Last Friday night, I went up to the party place to purchase a bottle of wine because I had some help with the house. They were helping me out. And when I got there, it was late. So I saw the girls that work there, and I don't know who any of them are, but I saw the girls that work there out in front of it, and I thought maybe they were getting ready to close up. So I ran in real quick. And when I came back out, they were talking about 2 campaign signs that were out in front of the place. And they said that they'd been receiving a lot of complaints about one of them. They said they were receiving a lot of complaints. And I said, for both of the signs? And they said, no, mainly for one of them, that they didn't agree with it and didn't think it should be at a place of business. Well, one of the girls said, we're out here discussing taking it and just throwing it in the dumpster. And I said, what are you talking about? And they told me that it was a sign promoting the recall of Nancy. And I said, well, I agree with you. I support keeping Nancy on council, but, I don't have anything to do with the sign. And they said, well, we're going to just do that. We're going to throw it in the dumpster or burn it up or something. And I said, well, you can't really do that. I said, it's number one, I said, you don't know the people involved in this, and you don't know what they're going to do. Second of all, even though I disagreed with the fact that that sign was there, I asked if they had permission. And they said, we didn't object when they came to put them in, but the owner doesn't know it yet. And so I asked them if they were serious about getting rid of the sign. And they said, yeah. I said, and you cannot put it in the dumpster. And they said, or maybe burn it. And so I said, well, why don't you just get it and give it to me, and I'll take it to the police, and they can take it to the person that owns the sign. Because that's the way I was raised. If you can disagree, but everybody's entitled to an opinion. So one of the girls went out, got the sign. I put it in the car. I drove up into town, didn't see any police cars around. Circled the building and there was nobody around. So I thought, well, okay, it's Friday night. I'll take it up in the morning. So I did that. When I got up there, there was, again, no police cars around, but I thought, okay, they're in the village, so I'll find them. So I just started up Main Street, and sure enough, there was a cruiser ready to stop at a stoplight. So I pulled up behind him and flashed my lights and beeped my horn. And we went down the side street and turned into a church lot. And I told him what I had, where I got it, and that it needed to go back to the owner. I told the police officer, I said, I disagree with what's on the sign, but he has a right to say it. And he took the sign, and I thought that was going to be the end of it. But when he went up to the party place, and he got some statements, of course, they were a little bit different in that I don't think that the narrative that he wrote was clear enough that I did not go out and get the sign. I couldn't navigate that territory because I can't walk without a cane, and it was wet and hilly and a big ditch. So nonetheless, I asked him if he could take the sign to the owner. I said, he lives right there, but I don't feel comfortable walking up to his door. And he said, I'll take care of it. So he did. And then I found out that he's charged me with theft. I can't quite figure that out. And I just wanted to tell you exactly what happened. And that was all that I had to say. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Is there anyone else that would like to address council at this time?
Please.
I'm probably.
Just a second, Steve. Takes me a minute to get going.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to discuss a disturbing incident that occurred at the last village council meeting.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Steve Wolf. I live on Sunset Boulevard. I'm here tonight to discuss a disturbing incident that occurred at the last village council meeting, and that incident should anger every citizen in this village. At that meeting, Mayor Dale Cowell indicated that he had been asked by the village council members to read a letter. That letter spoke to an incident that had taken place involving a council member and a village employee at the July 15th Kegs for a Cause event. The very first sentence read by the Mayor Cowell said, quote, "A village employee filed a sexual harassment complaint against Mike Mays related to his conduct at Kegs for a Cause," end quote. That statement is not true. No village employee filed a sexual harassment complaint against Mike Mays ever. As the mayor continued to read the statement, he would go on to use the term sexual harassment and the name Mike Mays 3 more times. The written statement, only 1 minute and 49 seconds long, managed to link the name Mike Mays and sexual harassment a total of 4 times. Only near the end of the statement was it mentioned that an investigation actually revealed there was no sexual harassment. Mayor Calhoun mentioned in his statement that anytime there is a charge of sexual harassment, the village has an obligation to investigate it. That may very well be true. The problem is, in this instance, there was absolutely no sexual harassment charged by the village employee. I know this because I have read the village employee's written complaint, and she never makes an allegation of sexual harassment. Joe Brown, our village solicitor, apparently wasn't so sure, so he decided to turn this matter over to another attorney that he handpicked to conduct an investigation. The attorney he selected is from a law firm located 1 city block away from Joe's downtown Cincinnati office. According to Google Maps, it's a 2-minute walk from Joe's front door. This attorney was paid at the rate of $570 an hour for a total bill of $3,933 to talk to the village employee and get basically the same information that the village employee had already given to Art Owens. Any question about whether or not there was any sexual harassment was quickly answered when the village employee told the investigator the following 3 things that are listed in the investigator's final report. Number 1, the village employee stated that Mike Mays has never said anything that would indicate interest in dating or sexual activity with her. Number 2, the village employee stated that when Mike put his hand on her shoulder or back, that none of the touches were sexual in nature or inappropriate. And number 3, and this is a direct quote from the village employee, "I don't think it was sexual harassment." Not surprisingly, the investigator in the final report said there was no sexual harassment that day, and that could have and should have been the last time sexual harassment was mentioned in regard to this matter. So that brings me to this question. If the village employee in this case made no charge of sexual harassment and repeatedly states that there was no sexual harassment, and if the investigator in the case concludes there was no sexual harassment, then why on earth would this council feel it proper to read a 1 minute and 49-second statement that mentions Mike's name in the term sexual harassment over and over and over and over? Well, I believe that public statement was carefully crafted by those with a political motive to be as damaging to Mike as possible. So who had motive? Let's discuss that. The mayor, my friend, who I respect, but I think he got a little duped in this one, he has a political sign in his yard that endorses Mike's opponent. The village solicitor, no doubt, has heard Mr. Mays said that if he were elected mayor, he might look for a more local attorney to serve as our village solicitor. So if Mike became mayor, that would certainly be motive for Mr. Braun. Councilperson Montgomery certainly has no love lost for Mike due to her removal hearing of which Mike was a part. And of course, Councilmember Cornett is running against Mike Mays for mayor. I recently did a public records request for legal bills assessed to the village for phone calls made from village council members to our village solicitor, Joe Braun. I found that for the time period from the Monday after the KEDS meeting through August 31st, the village was charged for 56 phone calls or work resulting from phone calls from council members, 56 in the 6-week span following KEDS for calls. Solicitor Braun will not tell me which council members made the phone calls, but I think we have a pretty good idea of who the bulk of those calls were made by, and why. All of this leads me to this. You people sitting in front of me did something absolutely despicable. Rather than confining your political races and battles to your private lives and personal social media pages, you used your position of power in this village council to publicly target a political opponent and interfere with an election. Congratulations. You took the dirtiness of the current political mudslinging that so many in this village are sick of to a whole new level. You used the office of council member, mayor, and solicitor to publicly embarrass a candidate for office, claiming there was a charge of sexual harassment when there was never any such charge at all. And you hope that your constituents would be stupid enough to fall for it. Final paragraph here. Because I respect and admire all three of them, I really want to believe that Bink Garbett, Kelly Campbell, and Jeremy Varner did not know this letter was written in such a defamatory manner and with such obvious political motives. Both Bink and Kelly are on the ballot for the next term, and I have signed both of their petitions, and I like them both a lot. I sincerely hope the two of you will use your platform tonight at your roundtable speaking time to publicly denounce this political stunt and separate yourselves from the others involved in this that have a clear political motive. Surely you do not want the village residents to believe that if elected, this is the type of political foul play that you will endorse. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And you want to address any of that or not? Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to address council?
Wasn't planning on this, but I'll do it anyway. Michelle Hopkins, citizen. One thing I wanted to clear up, Ms. Montgomery has stated several times that the recall issue is costing the village money. It is not, because this is a general election and the mayor and council members are running. This was thrown in. There is no charge to the village for the recall issue. Secondly, Mr. Jones, I have nothing against you, so please hear that right now. It has been brought to my attention that on October the 14th, Art Owens attended Joey Rocky's son's wedding using a walker. And I have a video from 3 days later of October the 17th, where he's not using a walker, carrying a dog that he rescued. And I have this video on my phone for any of you that wish to see it. So I had been told that at the last meeting, Mr. Jones has been made interim, and that you all are going to consider this evening whether to give Mr. Owens another 45 days to sit on his butt and do nothing at the expense of this town. So I'm asking you to please use some common sense and wisdom when making that decision. If not, I actually was trying to find some monopoly money to bring up here to give to each of you to spend the next time you think about wasting our taxpayer money. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Delbert Eichholz, Georgetown. As far as, I talked to Art today, he's having problems. He has been having problems. He's waiting to get in up at Columbus to get more tests done. And as far as one day being on a walker and one day being able to walk without a walker, I understand how that goes. I kind of had an accident a long time ago. I accidentally swallowed a bunch of antifreeze. And so every morning I get up feeling like I'm about to die, like you got the worst hangover you ever had. Some days ain't quite as bad. So that's kind of what he's going through. Some days he can actually move without a walker. So you can't take a picture of him without a walker and say he's fine, because his blood pressure is dangerously low. So, it's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else would like to address council? Go ahead, sir. If you would just introduce yourself. You have
My name is Jeff Baylor. I live here in Georgetown. To springboard off of what Mr. Wolf said, 56 calls made to the village solicitor. And we're handing off legal work under the guise of legal work at over $500 an hour. We've got about a $4,000 bill for this nonsense. I want to know tonight, which of the council members made those 56 phone calls to Mr. Braun? Was it you? Was it you, Nancy? Did you make any of the phone calls?
Probably, but I have no idea if I did or not.
So there's no position, there's no place in our charter that says there needs to be some kind of an approval before you guys just start willy-nilly making phone calls and charging the village taxpayer for your phone calls to the village solicitor? Because every time he answers the phone, he's billing the taxpayer.
Dude, I don't know why you're just talking to me.
Well, I'm talking to all of the council
56
members.
phone
I want to
calls.
know which council members made those phone calls. Was it you, Jeremy?
Mr. Braun, thank you.
Well, actually, I don't know where you got the number 56. There was not 56 phone calls during that time period.
Okay.
I don't remember. I produced these as part of a record request, but I believe it was 15 was the correct
Really?
number. Yes.
Well, that's a pretty far difference.
It's a significant difference. So I don't know where you got that number, but on my time entries that I produced to Mr. Wolf, we redacted everything off of those, which is every single entry for the time period. And the only entries that we did not redact were the ones that were phone calls to a member of council. I can probably look up the number for you based on the email that I sent to him, but I believe it was
I would
closer
like to see
15.
that, and I think there ought to be something in place here to prevent council members from willy-nilly calling the village solicitor and billing the taxpayer for that village phone call. And if there's not a quorum while that phone call is being addressed, that's an unsat dispersal of income from this village. And that needs to stop. And as far as attorney-client privilege, when it's a village employee talking to my village solicitor who gets paid by my village tax dollars, I don't see attorney-client privilege anywhere in that mix. So I think the public has a right to know what those phone calls are about and the subject matter, the content, the volume of the call, and how many calls were made.
And that could be the confusion on the number. I know my speaking time's up, but I don't want people to think I'm purposely misrepresenting the number. The document was so heavily redacted. The only thing that, you had a list of dates down the left side, and since I'd asked for an itemized list of each phone call, when I see a list of dates, then I'm left to assume that each one of those dates was a phone call. And there were definitely 56 itemized entries in that time span that I said.
That would be logical.
It might make sense for the people on council, if they want full disclosure, to waive any right to attorney-client privilege and just at least show the date the phone call was made, the length of the phone call, the charge that was assessed to it. Nobody's wanting to know, I'm not wanting to know what you talked about. I just have concerns that out of the 56 phone calls, maybe 50 of them are coming from one or two council people.
And what is the necessity of those calls? What's the necessity? Was there legal work product based on those phone calls? Or was it just some phone call to invite you to dinner and we billed the taxpayer for that? What was the purpose of the phone call? I want to know what those are. If you're spending my tax dollars to call my solicitor, I want to know what the purpose of those phone calls are. And I want to know why you're calling him.
Can I ask one question about that too?
Yeah.
Why redact the name of the caller? There's no significant information there other than who called. There's nothing legal behind that. Or illegal. I can't see how, and I'm not an attorney, but I can't see how that would be attorney client privilege to redact the name of the call from who the call came from.
Go ahead, Mr. Baylor.
And I guess that's really all I have, since nobody's going to stand up and claim that they made the phone calls.
Well, I never made that call.
Okay, I presume you haven't. I presume you have not.
You know, if everybody's honest, you could just vote to say that you can show my name next to that call and you can show the reason. A short summary.
I think the taxpayer in the village has every right to know what those calls are about. They're getting billed, and again, for $4,000 over this last fiasco that Mr. Wolf brought up, to spend $4,000 to hand that off to some attorney for several hours of work product to say, oh, there was no sexual harassment. That's unsatisfactory. That is a complete waste of money. So again, public officials talking about public business with my public tax dollars, I don't see attorney-client privilege anywhere in there. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Joe, can you answer that? Is there attorney-client privilege there? And if there is, what about the names being redacted?
There were 14 phone calls from March 1st to October.
So were the other entries work that was billed as a result of those phone calls?
The record request that I answered includes 14 entries, which were either phone calls from a member of council or work that resulted directly from the phone call with the member of council. So I want to clear that up. Number two, who I talk to, when I talk to them is privileged. The public does not have a right to know what I'm working on. If the village is interested in buying property and I'm talking to someone about the village buying that property, that's privileged, who I'm talking to and what I'm
This ain't
talking about.
land.
If council wants to waive that privilege, obviously they can waive that privilege. But my work is obviously also made available to all members of council. They have the right to review my unredacted legal bills, but they obviously are subject to the privilege.
Would anyone else like to address council at this time?
Question for Mr. Bryan. At the point that a council member would receive an unredacted version of those, then the attorney-client privilege is for the whole of council. So then would that be waived at that point?
It is
They can
not.
Share that information.
It is not. They're subject to the privilege. If it's shared with someone who is not privileged, then it could be waived.
Would there be a code of ethics or something that would prevent somebody on council from getting an unredacted version and sharing it out to the general public?
If they did that, they would be violating the attorney-client privilege, and then council would decide how they wanted to deal with that.
It wouldn't be violating, it would be waiving the attorney-client privilege.
But one member of council can't waive the privilege. It would have to be waived by the body as a whole.
I would suggest.
Come on, we've all had our opportunities to be up here. You can come back another time for, ask some of the same questions.
From suing for the records and to see if we can all come to agreement. Why would anybody, if there's obvious dispute amongst townspeople, he brought this up last week, not me, Delbert Eichholz did. And if there's concerns about an exorbitant number of calls, I talked to somebody who used to be Jay Kuchar's attorney that used to do the billing and said they would get 3 or 4 phone calls a month. If we're getting even 15, and again, something's amiss there, Joe, because you have 56 entries through that time. But anyway, why wouldn't we, for that period of time at least, I'm not like Mr. Baylor. I don't want to know what was discussed necessarily. I want to know who's making all the calls. Because my hunch is, if we go the course of a year, there's 100 calls made, and 95 of them are being made by 1 or 2 people. And I don't see why you all want to waive your, just to say, I'll show how many times I called and open that up to the public. And that's all I'll say on it.
Let's move on. Is there anyone else like to address council? If there isn't, no, you've had your opportunity, Delbert. If there is no others, we will move on to the rest of our meeting.
All you gotta do is let one council member bring it up for a vote.
We're moving on. If they wish to move in that direction, they can, but that'll be at some time later in this meeting. We're going to go into our general business section. And on page 1 is our council meetings from the October 12th regular council meeting. Is there any corrections, additions, deletions to be made to these minutes?
Things.
Yes.
On page 2, if you go down, right past general business into the bold print where it says an ordinance providing for the issuance, just a misspelling, the word amount, it follows principal amount.
Yeah, I see it.
And then right beneath it, the next line, it says purpose of the acquiring, I just put a space in there. And then there was one more on page 3 in the bold again. If you look where it says a resolution, just approving, spelled wrong. That's all I had.
Yes. Um,
He did better than I would if I did.
Is there anything else, Kelly?
No, that's it.
Is there any other things that need to be addressed in that? If not, we could make a motion to approve these as amended.
I'll move.
By Nancy, is there a second? By Kelly, let's do a roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Bink?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, very good. We'll move on then to the review of the Community Development Committee meetings. That's on page 5. There's a couple of members here for that. I guess all 3 members are here tonight. Is there any comment from any of the members in regards to this meeting?
Now we're kind of concentrating on the historic signage ordinance, redoing it along with the historic sign committee. And we've gotten through the ordinance, I think, and we have moved on to the application, the frequently asked questions in the brochure. And we started on the brochure. And Mrs.
Drafted.
Mrs. Yeah. Bink was nice enough to offer his wife to redo that. We all voted for that. And I think we got through the questions too. So we're moving along pretty well on that. Should be done soon.
Any questions by any other council members in regards to the committee meeting? If not, you can contact any of the council members that are a part of that group for any further explanation. On page 6 is a supplemental appropriation that's there for the purpose of the building of the water building to be placed out on the same campus as the electrical equipment. I'm going to read, this is actually accepting the money from the bonds that we issued for this project in the amount of $532,000. Since our council president isn't here, I will read this by title only. An ordinance making a supplemental appropriation for the village of Georgetown, Brown County, Ohio. Is there questions or information needed from this particular ordinance?
So this is the sale of the bonds that at the last meeting when I was not into attendance, that our bond counsel, which is Dinsmore and Scholl, saw that through. So they prepared that, they handled that working with Natalie. The $532,000, the bonds were sold, the money was sent to us. This is your acceptance of that money that you authorized at the last meeting.
This amount gets added to the county auditor's budgeting for us. We have to show them where the money's coming from. Any questions? If there are none, then we need to have a motion to adopt. Okay, by Kelly Campbell. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Jeremy Varner. Let's do a roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Kelly? Bink?
Yes.
Mike? No. Okay, very good. That ordinance is number 1357. We will go on then to page 7. It's a resolution for a real property sale. And again, so I'll read it by title only. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Pleasant Township for the sale of property located at 729 South Main Street in the village of Georgetown. This is the sale of the gray water building that is on South Main Street. Any questions about this? We've talked about it several times. Yeah, go ahead.
We also have a, somewhere, I think, unless I dreamed it, we have a resolution to enter into the land bank, the brownfield program. So that has to be done. Does that have to be done before we sell it? Since it says that it's owned by us, or because it's township, they can do it after we sell it?
So that's really up to this council to decide that. The way that it's drafted in the legislation that's before you, it says that the deal is contingent on you getting funds from the land bank to tear down that building. Councilmember Campbell might want to elaborate on this, but it's my understanding that it's a prerequisite for the township that we tear that building down.
So what had happened was, we had met with some Pleasant Township, all three trustees. They walked through the building, they looked at the property, and Art and I was out there. And they went and walked around it all, and they agreed that they would buy the property if the village would tear it down. So Art was getting it into that grant. And then once it was torn down, they would take immediate possession at close. And then they were feeling pretty good that they could get it passed through the grant and have it torn down. And because they were looking at another piece of property, and they liked the area here because they had police, patrol, and it was lighted, and they felt they spent a lot of money on new equipment, so they wanted it to be in town. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it.
Can we ask what's the price? What are we selling?
75,000.
That's fair. That seems fair. Yeah, for the lot.
Yeah, we've done a lot of talk about it. If you tear down the lot, then you see the eyesore of the cell phone tower and all that too. So it was kind of unappealing to a lot of people, we thought so. And they have to leave an easement, and they have to access through and all that stuff. So
And the tearing down is going to be covered by grant money, correct? Not.
There should be no cost to the village for that.
Correct.
Just by way of background, the state of Ohio just gave another dump of money to every county in the state for additional tear downs. Remember, we used some of the funds for different buildings around here that we were able to get the property owner's consent. And we are going to, the next piece of legislation is authorizing Kelly to go ahead and sign an agreement with the land bank, asking them for that money.
So then with that money that we get out of that, is that just go directly back to the general fund? Will that go toward paying for the new structure?
75?
Yes.
That's up to the council, what you do with that money. It goes into the general fund until you designate
It
it.
was anticipated to go towards the building of the new building.
Yeah.
And I think that was talked about in council.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, would have no impact on the bonds that we have, right? Just making sure.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, we would entertain a resolution to pass this resolution. By Kelly Campbell,
I'll second.
second by Nancy. Let's do a roll call vote. Michael?
Yes.
Bink?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
That would be resolution 1350. Also on page 11 is a resolution. This is in regards to the tear down for this building. It's for the land bank, and I'll read this by title only. A resolution authorizing the village administrator to enter into an agreement with the Brown County Land Bank for the demolition of the structure located at 729 South Main Street. Again, any questions in regard to that?
Do we have any idea of a timeline?
Our contact says they're going to start releasing money first week of November, somewhere
Okay.
along that line. Whether we're the first ones to get it or not, I don't know.
But pretty soon, okay. Is that all money, or is that just brownfield money? Or does it also include, they got money for brownfield and tear down, or?
Don't know the answer to that, but I know this property qualifies. We
Okay.
consulted with them.
Just to be clear though, back up or on that 75,000, is that going to, then if we vote to do that, what does that just go pay the bond down, the loan,
It'll
or?
go towards the construction costs of the building.
I understand that, but the loan, the bond was for the construction of the building, correct?
That's not all of what the building costs.
I know it was, but right, I understand that.
So it goes along with the bond money to help us build the structure.
Okay.
Just to clarify though, Mike, in thinking about it, I think the remainder, am I not mistaken? The remainder of the money was from ARPA money. So the reality would be if it's going to go,
I thought we
It
had,
should go towards the bonds.
right, that was what I was getting at.
Yeah,
I
I
knew there
think
was
you're
like
correct.
$200,000-$300,000 somewhere in that neighborhood of that
I
ARPA
think
money.
Natalie had it figured out that money would go in towards the purchase price too, but I may be wrong on that too. But regardless, it's either going to go to pay the bond down or it goes towards the building project itself. So we will entertain a motion to adopt this resolution.
That's a move.
By Jeremy, do we have a second? By Bink, let's do a roll call. Nancy?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Kelly? Bink?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, that would be resolution 1351. Yes. I might as well do it, yeah. At this point in time, I'd like to see whether we could go into an executive session, but I would need a motion to that effect.
Mayor, I move that we would go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1 to discuss the employment of a public employee.
We have a motion. Is there a second to that effect? Second by Kelly. Let's do a roll call vote. Nancy?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Kelly? Bink?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, very good. If you could excuse us, please, for this executive session.
We're still live.
We're going to do that in here.
It should be less than that, I would guess.